right, what's going on, guys? I am just making sure that I'm getting a connection in here. We've got about a minute. Oh, I guess it is noon. Just give it about a minute or two, make sure that this is going good and that I get people jumping on, or give people a chance to come on if they do. So I'm going to check that out here. And if you're just joining, today I'm going to be talking about the 5 biggest myths for building muscle and losing fat, especially if you are over 40. So this is something that, you know, there's so much stuff going on about the best ways to build muscle, the best ways to lose fat, and a lot of it is either, it's things that we actually should not be doing, especially if we're over 40, because the things that tend to work for us when we're younger, or the things that we can get away with, they don't work the same way, and they don't typically work as we get older, in our 40s and beyond. So I want to talk about some of those things today, the 5 biggest myths, and just kind of debunk these things. These are some of the things that over the years, a lot of the clients that I've worked with have, we've had a lot of discussions about these. They were doing these things and really struggled and were wondering why, like, why is this not working? I've been told I need to do this or that, and they just struggle with it and don't understand. So I just want to kind of talk about that and kind of debunk some of these myths. So if you are tuning in, if you have questions or comments, type them in below as we go. I'll get to them as I see them come up. A lot of times there's a delay, so I don't know if it's like 30 seconds or a minute plus that I get on my feed down here. So if you ask something, type something in, I don't respond right away, hang in there. I'll get to it as soon as it comes up for me on here. So looks like everything is a go. And this is a lot of the things that, I struggled with this for a long time. When I was in high school, I was a senior in high school, and I still, all the years leading up to that, all throughout my childhood, my teens, I could not gain weight. And I also struggled to build muscle. So, I was like working out. I was, trying to eat a lot of food and everything. And I just could not gain weight. Then fast forward to when I got into college, and I was getting into like my late 20s, and all of a sudden everything went in reverse. So I all of a sudden found like I just had a big gut. I gained 36 pounds like during my college stay. I looked and felt horrible, and now like I had this new problem with, instead of always trying to gain weight, I was having to lose it. And again, I struggled. I did all of the diets that were talked about, low fat, like no fat, low carb, no carb. This was before kind of keto and paleo and all these intermittent fasting and all this stuff became popular kind of buzzwords. These were different variations. I was taking all the supplements, I was taking, the fat burners, and just, I even tried kind of the starvation dieting thing, not knowing what I was doing at the time. But, all these different things that I tried, they either didn't work, or they didn't work very long. The things that did work didn't work long because I couldn't sustain them. And I think that's where, a lot of times we get stuck too, is that we do things that either work against us, or that are unsustainable. So I'm going to get into some of that today. So, real quick, I kind of do an intro. Hopefully you know who I am if you're watching, if you're tuning in, but basically, I've been doing this for about close to 20 years, just helping people, mostly people over 40, who want to get stronger, build muscle, feel better, move better, and be able to stay physically active. And a lot of times they are struggling with nagging aches, pains, and injuries, and just cannot do the things that they want to do and build the bodies that they want to build. So I help people to overcome those struggles and kind of, get the body and being able to live the lives that they want to live. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about, if you're just tuning in, the 5 biggest myths when it comes to building muscle and losing fat, especially if you're over 40. And so these are going to be some things that you might have heard a little bit about, definitely. But hopefully you're going to learn some things here as to if you've tried these things and you struggled with them. They're not working for you, but they work for everybody else that you know. Instead of thinking that you're doing something wrong or something's wrong with you and you just have to keep at it and do these longer, Hopefully this will shed some light on why these strategies may not be right for you, and then what you can do instead. So let's get right into it. So number one of the 5 biggest myths for building muscle and losing fat, especially if you're over 40, is that you need to eat less carbs if you want to lose fat and get lean. This has become the big popular thing. I think that started somewhere in the 90s when, Atkins became like the popular thing, and people got out of the low-fat kind of diets because that wasn't working. And so everybody had this thing about, if you eat too many carbs, it's going to turn to fat. So everybody needs to go low carb. And one of the things is that it's kind of a double-edged sword, or it's a tricky thing to talk about, because you've probably known people, either friends, coworkers, family members, whatever, who have gotten incredible results, got lean, got fit, lost weight, felt great with, doing low-carb diets. But on the other hand, there are plenty of other people who get the opposite. And I've seen this happen. I've dealt with this myself. I've seen it happen with people I've worked with over the years. And it's where the opposite happens, where you feel tired, you feel hungry, you're battling like intense food cravings all the time, you get weaker in the gym, you don't perform as well, you might not think as well, you kind of have like brain fog, or, just overall you feel kind of sluggish, right? So that's kind of the opposite, and you struggle to lose weight. Maybe you lose a little bit, but you struggle to get any leaner. You're not losing as much weight as you'd like, or you just get stuck, right? So that's one of the things, right? This is, again, I've talked about this before, that one size does not fit all when it comes to training, when it comes to nutrition, and you really got to know what works best for you. So if 10 people do great on a low-carb diet, but you don't, chances are that the low-carb diet is not the right thing for you, right? And so part of this is, and especially if you're trying to build muscle, low-carb diets are not going to be your friend, right? You definitely have to have carbohydrates, because carbohydrates fuel muscle growth. But even for getting lean, we have to have carbohydrate. So here's the thing that happens is, like, a lot of times, and they've done like studies over the years with this, comparing low-carb to like low-fat diets. And while overall they've kind of seen that there's bigger or better results that happen in the early stages of low-carb diets compared to like low-fat, higher-carb diets, when they looked at like after 1 year or so on that diet, what they found was that there's no significant difference between the two, which is again a reason why you want to assess what works best for you. And again, don't be trying to do this with the idea of, I'm going to get like results fast. Like, I need all this off now, and like in 30 days I'm going to lose 30 pounds of fat and things like that, because the things that you have to do when you resort to things like that, you tend to do things that are not sustainable. So again, we want to think about long term. Build for the long term. You want to do things and develop habits that are sustainable, because if not, you're just going to yo-yo back and forth and never really get where you want to go. You'll make 2 steps forward, go two steps back. So here's the thing, long-term low-carb diets, what tends to happen is that the longer we stay on these things, they start to suppress the thyroid. So if you don't know like what your thyroid does or why that's important, the thyroid basically is the thing that governs your metabolism. It's a gland, right, that secretes hormone that helps to regulate metabolism. So if you have a thyroid that is being suppressed and not working as well as it should be, you're going to find that you have a harder time losing weight and dropping body fat and getting lean. And the longer that we tend to go on these low-carb diets, that's what tends to happen. So we definitely, if you're doing that, there needs to be a break that happens somewhere in there to make sure that you offset the effects of suppressing your thyroid, right? It's not just about calories in, calories out that we've been taught. There's so much more that goes on, whether you're trying to build muscle or lose fat. So that's the thing. So low-carb diets are not the end-all, be-all, and we definitely need to be eating carbohydrates, whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat. The kind of where the in-between, the gray area is understanding, what your body needs, the types and how much that your body needs. And again, that's different from person to person. So always assess it for yourself. Don't blindly adopt nutritional dogma and one-sided approaches that are based on one size fits all, because we are all different in how, what our nutritional needs are and how we process foods and all of that. All right, so number 2, the second myth is that you need a protein drink or a protein supplement to build muscle or to burn fat. I get this question a lot about, like, should I drink a protein shake or do I need a protein drink? And, this is kind of the opposite, to where as much as we've become this kind of carb-phobic society, it's like this happens in reverse when it comes to protein. Now, we tend to have this fear that we're not getting enough protein, and this has been made popular by, this began in like the bodybuilding magazines back in the 80s and 90s that were, trying to push protein supplements on everybody, creating this fear that, oh my God, I'm not getting enough protein. So if I don't get enough protein, I'm not going to be able to build the muscle that I want. If I don't get enough protein, like, my metabolism's not going to be speeding up enough or burning fat enough, right? And so, the thing with the protein drink is that I would say this, where those come in, and this opens a whole kind of can of worms, and I can go on forever, and I don't want to do that. So basically, look at it this way. You do not need a protein drink if you do not first have the fundamentals of nutrition in place. And this is what I see so much is people are kind of looking for that magic bullet, looking for that one secret kind of trick or supplement or pill or powder or shake that will magically melt the fat off our bodies and pack on the muscle that we want, without having good fundamental nutrition principles in place. It's like building a house with a crappy foundation. You could put the best nails in, the nicest windows, the beautiful doors in there, and have all the bells and whistles, but if the foundation that you build for the house is crap, that house is going to crack and fall apart eventually. It doesn't matter how pretty all the stuff you put in is. And it's the same thing with nutrition. If you don't have the basics in place, the fundamentals there, the supplements and pills and all this stuff are not going to matter at all, right? So first and foremost, always get the fundamentals in place, dial those things in. Once you have those dialed in, you can look at things like a protein drink. And again, though, if you do, it's not meant to be, I can't stand the term meal replacement that's been labeled on a lot of this stuff. Meal replacement shakes, And I don't like that because it gives us the idea that we don't need to eat real food. Instead, we could just take these shakes, right? Drink this, this shake, or take this food or this pill or whatever, and that replaces real food. And you're going to get the best results when you have real food, because you get the most nutritional value in food, right? A lot of these supplements, are, especially protein drinks, they are the nutrition that's in it, the protein that's in it, by the time you get it, it's dead because of the way that they process it. So it doesn't have the value, the nutritional value that we really think that we're getting and that our bodies need. So when you get to that point, like if you're using a protein drink, it's really just to be like, if you're in a pinch, you have something that comes up, or you've got somewhere to go and you don't have time to make a meal, maybe you didn't have something prepared on a day, you're in a pinch, you need something quick or on the go, fine. But it's not meant to be like, 3 times a day and to replace like real food, okay? So the second thing to understand with like protein is that, there's a lot of recommendations out there. The most popular one for building muscles, like you need to get at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And again, a lot of this has been perpetuated, through supplement companies, advertising in bodybuilding magazines that are trying to push supplements on people, creating this fear that we're not getting enough protein. The truth of the matter is that we really only need, on average, about 90 to 120 grams of protein per day. And that is where the majority of people are going to fall into that. And, so what that means is that, if you're consuming more protein than that, you're not going to see a significant difference in the results that you get. So it's kind of like, if you're spending money on supplements and things like that and trying to get all this extra protein in, it's not going to really pay off for you, and you're just kind of wasting money. So it's being careful about all of that. We don't need anywhere near as much protein as we've been led to believe. So just kind of keeping that in mind. If you eat, real food, and even if you're just eating like 3 solid meals a day, for the most part, if they're balanced out, you're going to get enough protein. You're going to meet your protein needs for the day in those meals as well, even if you're trying to build muscle. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. And again, if you have any questions, you guys, if you're just tuning in, type them in the comments as I go. As I see them come up on my feed, I will get to them. But the feed that I have here on my iPad is like on a delay, so I might not get them for a minute or so. So just bear with me as we go through. Okay, so we got 2 of the 5 biggest myths for building muscle and losing fat, especially if you're over 40. Number 3 we're going to talk about is this, that you need to do more cardio to lose fat and get lean. So I'm not going to be one of the, the big cardio bashers out there. It tells you, don't do cardio, it'll ruin your physique and all this stuff. And that came from like a lot of the people that were promoting high intensity interval training, HIIT training, and all of that. You don't need long, slow cardio. And to a degree that can be true, but again, it's kind of like the context that we're applying it in, right? Doing cardio will improve your cardiovascular health. The ability of your heart and to pump blood, oxygen, and nutrients through your body and get it to your brain, to the cells of your body, to the muscles, everywhere that you need it, right? It is important to have a good degree of cardiovascular health. But when it comes to fat loss, what we're going to find that for most people, unless you are like super lean and you're getting into like single-digit body fat levels, doing cardio for like 30 to 60 minutes in your fat burning zone is not going to do a whole lot. And when it comes to that, the most important thing you're going to have is your diet. Your diet's going to be the thing that gives you the biggest results, and you can prove this easily if you just, ate normally and got on a cardio, did treadmill or stationary bike or whatever, stayed in your fat burning zone for 30 to 60 minutes and did all that stuff 3, 4, 5 days a week. You're going to see very little, if any, results compared to if you didn't do any of that and you really changed up your diet and dialed that in, right? So the biggest results you're going to see for fat loss are going to come from your diet. Secondly, when it comes to losing fat, right, cardio kind of has its limits. So what I mean by that is that if you're doing kind of the typical, low intensity, steady state, fat burning zone type cardio that's been so popularized, what'll happen is that over time, you're going to have trouble seeing any real significant results from that. Your body's going to adapt to it. As your body adapts, it becomes less efficient at burning fat and calories anyway. So basically, you struggle to get any more results, which is why people that tend to just do like cardio, get into this trap. And I've been there myself, to where they have to do more and more and more just to get a little bit more results. And it's never really that significant. So, you get to a point where there's diminishing returns, right? So on the other hand, if we look at when it comes to like building muscle, burning fat, the biggest bang for your buck is going to be strength training. Strength training is kind of the driver that fuels muscle growth and that triggers the hormonal response you need, whether you're trying to build muscle or burn fat. So, when it comes down to like, do I need more cardio? Look to your diet first, and look to your training, right? Are you doing strength training on a regular basis, hitting it hard at an intensity that is enough to stimulate, the whole fat burning process and muscle building process, right? In the strength training, if you do it right, it also produces kind of that afterburn effect, right? That we talk about, to where your metabolism stays elevated in the hours after you work out, which is what like traditional cardio does not do. And then, so more importantly, again, is like when you look at cardio, it's not to say, don't do any of it. It's not going to do a whole lot, like the steady state stuff, not going to do a whole lot though to get you significantly leaner than you would be if you just worked on the diet and the strength training. It is good for maintaining a good kind of base of cardiovascular health, and it's not to say not to do anything. If you enjoy it, if you like going for a hike or a walk or a swim or a bike ride or whatever, absolutely go for it. But it's just kind of understanding not to fall into the trap of thinking that you've got to be doing all this cardio or more and more cardio if you want to lose fat. Diet, strength training, like the most important things when it comes to that. And that is true as well when you're trying to build muscle, okay? So that's number 3. Number 4 is the myth that you need to lift light weights and do higher repetitions, right? lift light weights, do more reps, and that's going to help you get defined, right? You're going to get more toned. You're going to develop more muscle definition. You're going to get cut and shredded when you do that stuff. You know, and that was stuff, again, that was popularized like in the 1980s in the bodybuilding magazines. And again, it's absolutely a myth, right? You know, and for reasons I just talked about, you know, if you're trying to lose fat, your diet is going to be significantly important. But even more important is to maintain muscle or continue to try to add muscle as you are leaning down. Because the more muscle that you hold on your body, the more fat you burn. The leaner you're going to get, the leaner you're going to look. Because when you have more muscle in there, you have more shape to your body anyway, right? So, you know, when you lift just light weights and high reps, you're not necessarily going to be stimulating that muscle. And when, you know, you're going into like calorie deficit, you're trying to lose fat and get lean and, you know, doing all this stuff on that end, your body will start to dump muscle as well. And so, you know, that's the thing that happens. You lose muscle and then you start to burn fewer calories. Your body doesn't burn as much fat, and then you struggle to get lean. So you might drop some weight, but you'll struggle to have like the definition and the shape and all that you want, right? So it's not about light weights and high reps. And another thing with that stuff is that the more you do that stuff, you just pound light weights, high reps over, that tends to lead to overuse injuries. And that's where a lot of people get these aches and pains and injuries that they don't know what's causing it from. It's like repetitive use, right? Doing the same thing, light weights and lots of reps, and just beating up their muscles, tendons, ligaments, and joints with the same stuff and too much of it over and over, okay? So when it comes to building muscle, burning fat, do not neglect doing some of the more intense work. You can lift heavier weights. You can train for strength. That doesn't mean you have to do a 1 rep max and kill your body in the process. You know, work hard, but work smart. But, you know, don't neglect the importance of having, you know, strength training there, lifting harder, lifting at higher intensities, you know, lifting a little bit more on loads, and doing things that are going to help you build strength and build muscle, because that is what's needed, whether you're trying to build muscle or get lean and burn fat. All right, number 5, fifth thing, and the final one of our biggest myths when it comes to building muscle and losing fat in your 40s and beyond is the whole kind of calories in versus calories out, right? So if you're trying to build muscle, the popular kind of wisdom that's out there is that you need to eat more calories than you burn to build muscle. If you're trying to lose fat, it's the other way, right? You need to burn more calories than you take in order to do that. You have to get into a calorie deficit, right? So here's the thing. This is kind of like teetering, right? Walking the fine line when it comes to this. You know, muscle gain, gaining muscle and losing weight is not all about calories in versus calories out. Does that matter? Yes, it does matter to a degree. Is that all that weight loss and weight gain are about? No, and here's why. The one missing link that nobody seems to be talking about is the whole other kind of side of the process, where we talk about things like organ function, and we talk about digestive system, we talk about your nervous system, and having a balance with all of these. And this is why it's important. Your digestive system has to be functioning well, because if it's not, which in most cases, and I'll say this, the more body fat you carry and the less muscle you carry, the more weight you carry on your body, within that context, the more unhealthy your digestive system is going to be, and the less efficient it's going to be at breaking down and absorbing and extracting nutrients and eliminating waste from the foods that you eat. If our digestive system is not functioning well, that's where we get all the nutrition from that keeps our metabolism high, that helps us build muscle and burn fat in the first place. If your body can't do all that well, you're going to struggle, right? You just kind of get backed up in everything. Even if you eat quote unquote healthy foods, even if you eat a lower calorie diet, doesn't really matter. It's not necessarily, you know, the quantity of what you're eating as much as the efficiency of your digestive system to be able to break it all down and process it, right? And get it to where it needs to go in your body. You know, the other thing we look at are like organ function, your liver and your thyroid. If your liver and thyroid are not functioning well, it doesn't matter how much you try and cut calories or how much protein you eat or how low fat you go or any of that. Your thyroid governs metabolism, and your liver has a huge role in fat loss, metabolism, muscle building. So if those two things are not working right, again, you're going to find that you struggle. So if you're somebody who has struggled with trying to adjust your calories and you're still not seeing results that you want, look into this stuff. You've got to regulate this stuff before the calorie stuff becomes something that you can look at more in detail. And hormonal health, right? Balancing all the hormones we have between testosterone, growth hormone, glucagon, ghrelin, right? Cortisol. All of these hormones are key role players in whether or not we can build muscle, lose fat, get lean, get the bodies that we want, right? It's not all about calories in, calories out, right? So now, where does that stuff come in? Where is it really important about the calories? The calories will tend to work better when these things are working, when your hormones are balanced, when your organs are functioning well, when your digestive system's going well, when your nervous system's properly balanced, right? That's when the whole kind of calories in, calories out, you can start to manipulate that a little bit more, or adjusting your macros and things like that, right? But if those things are not working right, that is the first place to address before you even attempt to start looking at calories, right? So those are the 5 biggest myths when it comes to building muscle and losing fat, especially when you're over 40. So that is that. Really kind of think about what I said here. Try some of these things out for your own or on your own. And, if you still struggle, feel free to private message me. Let me know what you need help with, and I'll do my best to try to get you on the right track and help you out. And before I go, real quick, if you haven't tuned into these videos, I've been doing these all week. I am looking for, right now, I'm looking for 5 people who are over the age of 40 who want to build 5 to 7 pounds of lean muscle and bulletproof their bodies in the next 60 days. What I'm doing is I am putting I put a program together, and I'm looking for 5 people to test it out for me and help me kind of just tweak it a little bit as needed, work out any of the kinks that are in there, and so that I can use the results that they get as a case study for this program. So I'm offering this program at a huge discount. If you are interested in building 5 to 7 pounds of lean muscle in 60 days and bulletproofing your body against shoulder, lower back, knee pain, things like that, keeping yourself looking, feeling, and performing your best, private message me or comment down below. Just comment, tell me more, and I will message you with the details. I'm going to close this all down on Sunday. So, if this is you, if this describes you, and you want to get in, jump on this now, message me right away or comment down below, and let's get you going on that. All right? So that is it for me today. I will be back tomorrow, topic to be determined. And until then, hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow.